You've got productivity all wrong. And that's because I'm no productivity expert. In fact, I have almost like chronic procrastination. But the reason I'm making this video and the reason I've talked about procrastination before is because I want to come at it from a slightly different angle. So, first of all, I apologize if you can hear the rain on this like conservatory roof right now, but nonetheless, I wanted to talk about procrastination because I've talked a little bit about it on this channel, but I've come at it usually from a different perspective, not of, trying to take advantage of, different psychological biases and the ability to use novelty for this and, use, dopamine detoxing, 3-minute rules, 5-minute rules, all of these fancy tips and tricks that you can use to increase your overall productivity, actually get like, the whole eat the frog, if you've read the book Eat That Frog, that whole thing of just like getting the dopamine hit later on once you've actually got the motivation within starting the task. But I don't want to talk about any of that today. I don't want to talk about the 3-minute rule, the 2-minute rule, the 5-minute rule. I don't want to talk about, how all of these various things to do with being productive, because quite frankly, they're all amazing, but I think they kind of sugarcoat the real problem. Or kind of it goes in one ear and out the other ear for this, because I think you're trying to find little tricks to be able to solve the problem you don't even need to be solving. So to get to my point, I believe at this point now, and maybe this, my opinion, I hope my opinion changes over time, because obviously they should, all of our opinions should change depending on new evidence and information we get. It's really got loud, the rain now, so I'll try. See, as long as you can't hear it too much. So my point on being productive and procrastinating and trying to be more efficient with my work is that word I just used then, about being efficient, because I was in a call recently with some people that I know quite well from a couple of different servers I'm in on Discord now, and one of them mentioned that productivity is actually about efficiency, because all of us want to have this like hustle mindset, work 12 hours a day, work 18 hours a day, work 16 hours a day, however long we might want to work for, crack out the job, get it all done, get 15 different things done in a day. That's amazing if you can do that. I certainly can't. But I do have these random spurts of hyperfocus. But nonetheless, all of this stuff to take into account, what they mentioned in this call I was on is the fact that productivity is actually and should actually be about how efficient you are. So it's pointless trying to work 12 hours a day, even 8 hours, even 6 hours a day, if you just lose efficiency within the first like 25 minutes. And this is again kind of taking into account the Pomodoro technique, which I think is one of the only productivity tips and tricks. I would say there's two things for procrastinators here that I've used before, and I'll say again. The 5-minute rule and the Pomodoro technique. So the 5-minute rule gets you started with a task. You get over the hurdle of the motivation required to start a task, and then you have the motivation once you're in it because you're just in the flow, that flow state. There's also a great YouTuber called Ryan Doris who's made a bunch of videos about flow state tasks, and it's been amazing. And I'll try and link it below if I remember. I apologize if I don't. But they mentioned how, obviously, productivity means that you should just try to be as efficient as possible. It doesn't necessarily mean grinding out working 18 hours a day. It just means if you work for 2 hours, but you get much more done. I like to call it moving the needle further. I'm doing high return on investment, high ROI tasks. So all that to say, what I think everybody in the productivity space ultimately doesn't really get to, at least until the end of their videos, is not any 5-minute rule, 2-minute rule, mental hack, thing to overcome procrastination, thing to increase motivation, all these things. They're amazing and they help here and there, and some of them are great. Like I said, the 5-minute rule, the Pomodoro technique, they are helpful in eliminating procrastination and being more productive with your day, being able to do multiple things in a day when you need to. But what they forget is purpose. Because all of this stuff aside, what's the point in doing any of it if you don't actually know why you're doing it in the first place? What is the purpose behind the work you're trying to do? And all of the reasons you need all of these tips and tricks in the first place is because, at least I would say, well over 50% of the time, maybe close to 75 or 80% of the time, you're struggling and you have this friction between you and the tasks because you don't actually know why you want to be doing them. And it's a deep-seated question there. If you don't actually know why you want to be doing these things, it's just to make more money, or it's just to do this or do that. If you don't actually know the deeper reason, there's the deeper intention there, and the deeper goal you have, then if you don't have that, then no wonder you need all these tips and tricks to try and help you be more productive and eliminate procrastination. Because for me, at least, I've made the most progress basically eliminating almost all of the productivity tips and tricks. Basically just using, like I said, the 5-minute rule to get started with a task, and basically just use that. Sometimes using the Pomodoro techniques, like literally one, barely two things most of the time. But most of my productivity comes from intention. It comes from knowing again, it's the great Simon Sinek book here, Start With Why. If you know your why, then it's easy to get on with it, because you don't need motivation to do the thing you want to do. You don't need motivation to be productive and do the thing. Like, certainly don't need motivation when I want to be creative. I just get into flow. Creativity sparks going off everywhere. I'm just like, I'm on a roll. I'm in flow. And you want to find that flow state. And I know not every single task will initiate flow, but you will, realize basically I'm a very creative person. I love using my imagination. I love being like kind of increasing my intuition with these things and kind of trying to find the most creative ways to do different things, even if it isn't typically that creative. But what I found is I get into flow by finding creative ways to do things or new imaginative ways to do things. And so actually, I increase my productivity by finding the flow there for me, which is that creative space. And I get into that. And so you need to find what works for you. For me, it's about being creative and finding a new creative way. When an idea flows in my head, I want to get on with it, flow. And then when ideas aren't coming, when I've got like the writer's block for any kind of task, that's where I'm like slacking and not being productive and not motivated, because I don't feel like it. I'm not getting into any sort of flow. So the first bit is start with why, the great Simon Sinek book there. Know just why are you doing it? Why are you trying to do these things? Because there is no friction, or there is very little friction between between you and the thing you deeply want to do and have deep purpose for and sense of why for, the deep intention and goal. And then it's just that bit again of I've gone mind blank all of a sudden, but it's just, yeah, knowing kind of what makes you tick. Basically, for me, it's about being creative. It's about getting into that flow of creativity and imagination and ideas coming in, and like trying to control that and use it to my advantage in each task I'm trying to do. But find out what works for you. If you're an analytical person, if you're quite an academic person, find out how to get the best out of yourself for each task you're trying to do, so you can be as effective as possible with it. So get rid of all of these tips and tricks about productivity. I'm not saying don't use them. Do what works best for you. That's the ultimate advice, I'd say, for anything I've seen. Like, just whatever works best for you, do that. But I would certainly say stop trying to figure out all the tips and tricks. Figure out what you really want to be doing and your intention and purpose behind it, so that you actually know why you're doing what you want to do. And then secondly, find out what makes you tick. Find if you're a creative person, academic person, analytical person, whatever you might be. Find that flow in you and then get on with it. But then that's about it. Nearly a 10-minute video today, but yeah, thanks very much for watching. Hope this helps. If it does, it's helped me, and it's kind of like a different spin on productivity. Ultimately, kind of more of an elimination than adding things and tips and tricks to your life. But I hope that helps, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. See you next one.